Hey everybody, Captain Joe here again with another conversation with one of our team members, Chip, who is our production director, has been for over 25 years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like a lot of things, Chip is going to be moving on and retiring after 25 years of faithful service. Thousands of veterans' lives saved through the kits that he's made over the years. And I just wanted to have a little conversation to share with our donors a little bit about Chip and the impact he's made here, but also let him talk a little bit about his time in both the craft industry, a little bit about his story, and the impact that he's made here at Heal Vets. You just kind of share a little bit about you, Chip. So
Sure.
you made a huge impact here. You really have.
No,
And
thank you, Joe. I
over
appreciate
25 years of service, it's to one organization. It's kind of very old school, and because we have made an impact. So talk to me a little bit about maybe where you started, how long you've been in the craft industry for, and 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 then we'll start from there. So when did you start working in crafts?
As a kid, my my dad was a vice president of Craft House, which was one of the innovators of paint by numbers
Awesome.
in the world.
Yeah.
And they were over there in Toledo, Ohio, by Detroit, where Palmer Paint was part of that initial group of old timers, old school days.
Yeah.
And I was a kid, and we would go pick up my dad at work after work, and I just knew everybody in the business and everybody um, in the office, and it was. I can go on for a long time.
No,
I'll,
that's
I'll
good.
try to keep it somewhat short, but
Yeah.
one of my favorite stories is that I was probably eighth grade-ish type, and I knew the artists over there, and Tom Pickle was the lead artist, art director, and I was taking going to take commercial art in high school, in a vocational school.
Mm.
And so he knew I was into art. And so when you do a paint by number set back in the old days, pre-computer days, you had a painting and then you had somebody lay the acetate film over the painting, and then you'd outline the color or the paint colors.
Mm.
And that's what I do. I did that. And so
Awesome.
and I did it for like $5 back in a long time ago.
That was big money.
It was $5 was a lot of money, I was like, I was wealthy, and
Yeah.
but boy, it was, it really helped the company, and
Right.
but it, I enjoyed doing it, and that was kind of my start. But we did all kinds of things, beads and sequins. I was just a truck loader, and another story is back before we were able to build this building and move here from San Diego, we were in a building leased down in San Diego by the airport. And every month, the company I was with, Craft House, we would load a pup. They were a 22-foot trailer, not a full semi-load, but they would have pups. And then that's how half loads would be shipped back in the day. And we never shipped on pallets. It was hand loaded. So we hand load every truckload, every pup truck, and the trucks that I was loading back in those days, they would bring out here and unload down in San Diego.
Yeah.
And life circle has turned around that here I am working for the same company that I loaded product to come here.
That's pretty cool.
It's
really cool.
Yeah,
that shows a lot of history. And that kind of gets me like the fact that you actually started in crafts so young, and you started as a family, it's almost like a family calling in a way. It just, I can see the passion for the kits that you make for us. Things you design, and there's that creative spark. That not even though you're a great business guy, you can figure out like how to get a kid out the door in a very cost-effective manner to our donor. There's a lot of love and creativity that kind of goes into what you make, and I can kind of sense that 20, 30, 40-year plus history that coming from your family
plus
kind of making that work, which is great.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about like your time at Heal Vets and when you started. It was and what you start doing when you first got here.
Well, I started because I did leather work back in Toledo, Ohio, where we're from. And Jack Hyman, my mentor, who was teaching me the leather division for Craft House that I worked for, because I was in management by then. I had worked my way up. And we had gone, I learned the division, and we moved it from Chicago to Toledo. And then Jack and I would talk all the time because, I was learning the business from him. And after it was out of his hands, because he had been in it from back in the 50s, he was just curious how it was going.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that we had been bought by another holding organization. And he was just so worried that the leather division would die because Help Heal Veterans they were like 95% of the whole business. And if we didn't have Help Heal Veterans, we wouldn't have had a leather division. And so one time he asked me, he says, what if I bought the division, moved it back to Chicago? Would you come back to Chicago and run it for me? And I said, well, I think so, because their forecast of the new owners was kind of a little bit too aggressive and not really believable for those of us who've been in business our whole life, that particular business. And it's not going to be $1 billion company that they hadn't said it was going to be. And so we contacted the CEO at the time of Help Heal Veterans and said, would you continue to be our customer if we would do this? And he says, sure. Because we've been purchasing kits already for 20 years. And the next day he called me up and said, well, what if Help Heal Veterans bought it and moved it out to California? Would you come out to California and run it? Because we're building this brand new building in Winchester, California. And we have the space that we could do that and maybe manufacture our own kits. And so really it was like no financial obligation on my side. It went into the organization. And then I became an employee. And it was kind of a perfect fit. And it gave me a lot of the freedom for creativity, because that's why it's great that we manufacture the kits, because it's not how many can we sell, does it meet a clinical need for the veterans? And if it helps with PTSD, or it helps with stroke recovery, or whatever it might benefit, that's where it's ideal to do our own manufacturing, because we don't have to worry about how many we sell. Because we give it away. Everything's given away for free. And we have such a strong donor base that was allowing that to happen at that time. And it worked out really well. And here I am. I've been here ever since. And it did not prove to be wrong. And it better than I ever would have hoped. And the helping those that are in need has really made an impact in my life. It's really... it's amazing to think how life choices and paths steer somebody in any one direction. And that it has put me in this spot is just really humbling, to think that I was able to contribute. And
you made a pretty big impact, Chip. You think about it, your story you just kind of told, you basically started, we've been around for 50 some odd years now, and about half of that time, roughly, we've been manufacturing our own stuff versus just buying it from before. And with that transition allowed us to actually manufacture it to meet the clinician need, like you talked about, versus just buying it and it would be fun, it'd be great products and whatnot like that, but maybe it wasn't quite the right fit for what that veteran needed on their healing journey, And you kind of been able to do that. So you kind of started that whole program here for us and kind of built it up to kind of what it is today, where we can kind of, within limits of financing, and resources, donors, to what we can do, that we can really make a really big difference. So Chip, talk to me a little bit about how manufacturing changed, when you started, our ability, what we were able to do then versus what you see now.
Well, when we started, we were doing just leather.
That
was all we did. And then we grew into doing the wood kits. And then the wood kits grew into doing poster art. Then poster art, then we branched into sun catchers. And then after we got into sun catchers on and off, then we kind of went into various short runs of buying the raw materials from company A, B, and C, and then we'd put them together here.
Right.
And then we've gotten with Lazy Boy introduction of their gift in kind materials with the multiple truckloads that we've received from them. That's also started a brand new. We used to always say, well, we're leather, wood, and now we also manufacture fabric kits.
Yeah.
So we have tote bags and backpacks and pot holders and different things you can make with fabric, and that's because of the Lazy Boys.
Yeah, and that gave us in the Southwest Airlines and using that kind of airline seat covers.
That's
and
right. And
all the upcycle thing. And I know that you and I chatted about hopefully getting some urban wood in there too.
Yep.
To try and get some of that. They really make sustainability become manufacturing. Sustainability become a big part of what we do, not just because it's good for the planet, but it's really cost effective for the donor. Dollar.
And that's brings to light the issue of the dollar, the donor dollar.
Yeah.
So the donor dollar went for everything. Well, now the donor dollar has to lean more towards not only we don't have to buy the raw materials as much as we used to, but now the freight has just changed so horribly dramatically. I mean, it's a fraction.
Manufactures and distributes. We got to get. It's great we can make the kit. But we got to get into the hand of the VA, the hand of the vet. Who's by themselves at home. That's cost there, but that's kind of what we try to do is make that donor dollar stretch to make that work. And you've been a big part of that. As I sit here and kind of reflect on your history here, 25 years, it's like, you got to think about all the kits you've made, our ability to upcycle, the ability for that creative stuff that you bring to be able to take like a donation, like we can maybe get some beads from here, or stencils from there. And with that, we can make something that's truly healing that you just can't buy.
Yeah.
And we can make something you cannot buy what we make to have the impact that we do. For every kit to provide, like an average an hour and a half of therapy is a lot. And you think about it, we've done like 30 million kits plus. Since you've been here, you're probably a good 20 million of that that you've kind of put out the door. Probably more than that. Well, actually,
if you think of the numbers, in the years, it's probably I don't think of it except in this stage of my life, moving into the next chapter, is when you look behind. And I've been laughing with people in the last few weeks as this is getting closer.
Right.
That people are saying, "Well, I've been doing that for 10 years." It's like 10 years.
I know.
It's great experience, but
right.
When you think, "Man, I've been doing this for 35, 40 years."
For what we're doing, and working with us for 25.
25,
And if we do, like you say, you've done 25, million kits
out
of that. That's probably a good 40 million hours of therapy you provide to vets. It's probably a good 20 million people that you helped with 40 million hours of therapy, providing that to people who are in their darkest times trying to heal up.
Yeah.
And you've created something to allow them to kind of move forward that healing journey. And you can't think, of a better professional legacy than that. Not just being creative and being innovative and making use of donor impact, donor dollar, but also that tangible thing of maybe saving lives. And not a lot of folks can do that. So as you start this next chapter in your life, I want you to know that how grateful we are at Heal Vets, and speaking from the staff here, the people, our donors, our board of directors, and the hundreds of thousands of vets that you helped over the years, that we truly are thankful for all that you've kind of given to the nation and your service here.
And that that I never served, and and I never thought of the impact. I had friends that did, left high school and off they went, Air Force and Army, but I never associated it with it until I really got involved in this, and brought me into the light that, and the realization that, when I do look back, it's like unbelievable that, life's channels and change of direction and different roads put me to do what I do, because no one else does this, and it's extremely unique. But the people and the friends that I've met doing this I couldn't be more blessed. I mean, it just really, I've met some of the best people in the world, that I can't believe that this has allowed, God allowed this to happen to me. It's just amazing, and just, I've learned from, I never went to college. my college is, I had 40 years of college.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
there
like,
you go.
you always learn something new every day, and it's you do, and
Yeah.
it's I appreciate what you said, and it means the world to me, and it does. It really, I'm not just saying it. It's been a blessing to touch the lives and be so meaningful to so many, and the legacy will. I'm still available. I may not be here on site, but
Yeah.
it's,
We're gonna make use of it. You're a resource. We're not letting go.
that's
that easy.
right.
So
I'm not just.
Chip will still be a part of
Yeah,
some of that creative process here.
yeah,
Be helping us in a different way, kind of going forward. So,
exactly.
last thing I'll ask: is there anything that you, sir, would like to say to our donors, our audience, and the people who support us here before you sign off?
Well, not to turn this into an appeal, but the money is so tight, and boy, if the cost of everything has just gone up so high, and any dollar, be how small or how large, it just really, it just makes this organization tick, and it gives uh, such benefit. I've years ago, I think of people when I first started, friends back east. They go, "Were you making toys?" It's like, no, no, because I was well onto my way learning the impact of this and what it does for the veterans.
Mhm.
And and I haven't heard that in 20 some years, but I have experienced that comment, and they're tools, and they just have so much fun, and it does impact them so much emotionally and physically. It allows them to recover, and medicine that doesn't come in a bottle, and any donation, and we're getting the raw materials, but it's the cost is just, it just doesn't stop. The freight, the poly bags that you put them in, and it's just small things that it adds up. But when you do, you know, what are we at? 300,000 kits last year, 400,000,
Mm-hmm.
and every one of those, it needs instructions, it needs needles, it needs poly bags, and you can ask for donations, but they're always difficult to locate. But we need to support the donations of materials that we do get, because it's not just it's great the fabric or great the leather or great whatever materials we're getting. That's a vast portion of the kit, but the supportive parts still have to be purchased, and they still have to be shipped to that veteran at the end of the road, and
Yeah.
it costs money.
It does, and we appreciate everything our donors do.
Yeah.
But to your point, and
the blessing that donors allowed us to do what we've done for all these 50 plus years, and to be part of it for these 25 is just, it's really
awesome.
Can't say much more.
Thanks so much for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
And thanks for listening in. Visit healvets.org. Click that donate button, please. And
Please.
and send in any questions you have or comments. Appreciate it. Thanks.